The morning show seemed busy. The crew went back and forth, big lights were installed, and the camera was set up in the best position. Amidst that crowd, Zhang Linghe arrived at a leisurely pace, wearing a simple black hoodie and jeans. His face still kept a trace of sleepiness, but a small smile never left his lips when greeting the crew one by one. Not long after, Zhao Jinmai came. Her hair was tied simply, her face was still plain without full makeup. He seemed to be carrying a cup of coffee, his steps were light, and his gaze was full of enthusiasm. As soon as he saw Linghe, he smiled widely. "Morning, Zhongji." "Hello, cheerful." Linghe nodded, then responded with a small yawn. "Morning, my. You look so excited. It must be Dong. Today we are filming an important scene," he replied, raising an eyebrow. The crew around them smiled at the familiarity. They knew, from the very beginning of filming this drama, the two always looked like a completely familiar couple. No awkward impressions, no distance. In fact, the aura that emanates is always warm and pleasant. Linghe stared at the coffee in Jinmai's hand. "Is there for me too?" he asked seductively. Jinmai pretended to think. It seems not. I just bought one." However, the next second he thrust the coffee towards Linghe. "But you can drink first if you want." Linghe chuckled a little. "You are very kind. But then you will fall asleep yourself." That's how they started the day, with a simple joke that made the atmosphere on the set warmer. The crew even felt their interaction was enough to make the mood of the whole team improve. Scenes that bring laughter. That day, they had to shoot an emotional scene. However, for some reason, whenever the camera started recording, Linghe and Jinmai always ended up laughing. "Cut!" shouted the director in a tone mixed with frustration and amusement. "You two, this is a serious scene. Don't laugh." Jinmai covered his face with his hands, holding back the laughter that was still breaking on his lips. "I'm sorry, I couldn't bear to see Zhang Ji's expression." Linghe chuckled along. "Me. You start first." The crew all laughed. Even the director finally sighed and smiled resignedly. These guys really make a living. Although it took a long time to complete the scene, no one complained. Because it is precisely those funny moments that make the whole team feel light. Linghe often pretended to make silly faces when the camera wasn't on yet, just to make Jinmai cheerful again. "I know it's a heavy scene," he whispered once before the cameras rolled. "Don't worry, I'll take care of you. We can." The simple sentence made Jinmai look at him for a while, then nodded with a sincere smile. For some reason, Linghe's presence did indeed always give a sense of security. A fun afternoon break. During the break, all the crew gathered for lunch. However, the most striking scene was of course at the corner table, where Linghe and Jinmai were sitting together. "I ordered spicy food. Are you strong?" asked Jinmai as he hands her the lunchbox. Linghe tried one mouthful, then immediately coughed. "How spicy? You can do it, yes." Jinmai laughed until his eyes narrowed. "I thought you ate spicy. It turned out to be weak too." "Not weak," Linghe argued while drinking water quickly. "This is too extreme. You are." Everyone who heard their conversation laughed along. In fact, there were crews who deliberately filmed secretly, although, of course, they did not dare to spread it to the public. After eating, they sat under a tree near the set. Jinmai took out his phone, then started photographing Linghe secretly. "Hey, don't take my picture carelessly," Linghe protested. "Why? You look funny when you're daydreaming," Jinmai replied without guilt. Linghe sighed, then actually brought his face closer to the camera. "Then I'll give you a serious pose." Click. The photo was taken successfully, and Jinmai laughed contentedly. "I will keep it for a private collection." Temptation behind the camera. There was one habit the crew began to notice. Linghe liked to tease Jinmai in between takes. Once, while Jinmai was waiting for his turn, Linghe suddenly appeared behind him while whispering, "You know your lines by heart, right? Don't forget it." Jinmai was surprised to almost drop the script. "Zhang Ji," he exclaimed. Linghe laughed contentedly. "Your expression is priceless. That habit makes Jinmai often resentful. You, my friend, are just doing your job. But you're happier, right?" Linghe replied relaxed. And it's true. Jinmai realized, behind all the seriousness of the work, Linghe knew how to make him feel relaxed. For him, it was not just a joke, but a subtle form of attention. Long night with scene preparation one night, the two of them had to wait for their turn to shoot the night scene. Spotlights were already shining on the set. Cold air pierced the skin. Jinmai looked a little shivered. Without saying much, Linghe took off his jacket and draped it over Jinmai's shoulder. "You will catch a cold if you continue like this," he said. Jinmai turned his head. His face slightly reddened. "What if you are cold? I am powerful. You don't get sick." The moment is simple, but it feels so deep. The viewing crew could only look at each other and smile, reluctant to disturb the radiating warmth. That night, they repeated the scene many times. However, instead of being tired, the atmosphere was warm. It was as if each other's existence was enough to make the energy return. Little secrets behind the scenes. Quite often, they share little secrets. "You know, I often get nervous if I have to shoot with you," Jinmai said softly once. Linghe was surprised. "Why?" "I don't know. Maybe because you're too serious sometimes. So I'm afraid I'm wrong." Linghe smiled faintly. "You have nothing to fear. I'm human too, so I could be wrong. But that's what makes us learn together." Those words made Jinmai feel relieved. There was something in Linghe's gaze that was always soothing, as if to say, "You are not alone." Laughing in the midst of the chaos, days went by, but their intimacy never faded. In fact, it's getting clearer. When filming a fight scene, Linghe deliberately pretended to fall too dramatically, to the point of making Jinmai laugh out loud. "You're like a comedian," he commented. Linghe laughed. "If you're an audience member, I am." The simple sentence made Jinmai silent for a while, then smiled with flushed cheeks. When fans watched the other day, the filming location was open to the public. Fans stood at a distance, watching his idol work. In the midst of that crowd, Linghe and Jinmai still performed professionally. However, in between breaks, Linghe was seen waving to the fans, then spontaneously pulling Jinmai to wave along. Fans immediately cheered. "What the fuck are you, Zhang Ji?" Jinmai whispered afterwards, his cheeks red. Linghe just smiled. "Let them know, you are also an important part here." The little moment was captured in the memory of fans, making rumors of their closeness even more widespread on social media. Invisible support. Not all days go smoothly. There are times when Jinmai feels tired, even almost crying because of a difficult scene. At that moment, Linghe was always present. He didn't give long advice, just sat next to her, offered her a bottle of water, or simply said, "I know you can." Simple support is precisely the most impactful. Jinmai felt that, together with Linghe, he always had a reason to persevere and move forward. More than just colleagues. The last day of filming arrived. All the crew cheered happily after the final scene was over. However, there is a sense of excitement hanging in the air. Linghe looked at a smiling Jinmai as he waved his hand towards the crew. "We did it, my." Jinmai looked up, his eyes twinkling. "Yes. Thank you for always being there, Zhang Ji." They stared at each other for a few seconds, as if they wanted to save all the moments they had ever passed. Excitement, laughter, crying, and a sense of comfort that cannot be expressed in words. It wasn't just a part of the shoot, it was something deeper. For everyone else, they are just an actor-actress couple working together. However, for Linghe and Jinmai, that moment on set will always be an irreplaceable memory.